I met Sinan in my street and actually at Backyard Cafe where I've been working for the last 3.5 years as a recruiter, and I didn't have time to talk to it because I have too many interviews, but this guy is really interests me, especially actually your topic about neurodiversity. I wasn't aware about that, and yeah, when we started talking about this and your project evolved, I was passionate about discovering it more. And that's what we are doing with this third episode of Check My LinkedIn, is sharing about neurodiversity and the project of Sinan that is launching. I think it's an amazing topic that the world should know more about, especially in Cambodia. Not only in Cambodia, I think it's for the world, but yeah, neurodiversity with Sinan. Check his LinkedIn. Sinan, let's start?
Sure, let's start.
I'm so happy for you to be here. It's the third episode of Check My LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. It's basically conversation with people working in Cambodia. And actually, we just say to relax, that we try to imagine where we are most of the time, where we were for the last 2 years.
In Backyard Cafe, yep.
Yeah, because this is where we met. I don't know when exactly, but this was really cool. We started to have like a conversation here and there between two interviews and you working. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy that we can do this today.
Me too. I'm really happy. Yeah. Awesome. We've been waiting to also talk and meet for like a long time too. So I think it's good that, we imagine that we're in the cafe now.
So basically today we're going to talk about what you do, but also your understanding and perspective on neurodiversity and the world and so on. But just to start, can you tell us about who you are?
Okay, so I'm Sinan. I'm the founder of the Neurodiversity Co-op. It's a new company, a new project that I'm launching. And the main goal of the company is to help neurodivergent individuals, children, adults, young people, like myself, who want to find their unique way of being in the world and their unique way of their unique purpose, basically. At the same time, trying to make sure that society and workplaces and schools, they become what's called neurodiversity affirmative. So they become more safe, accepting and open places for people with all sorts of minds.
It's like handicap, is how you say, but you need the place to be accessible for them in the wheelchair. But here it's like wheelchair for the brain or somehow.
Basically, yeah, it is. It includes like neurodiversity includes disabilities and handicaps too. But the main idea behind it is that everyone is different in the world. The way that we think, the way that we feel, the way we process information. And some people who are, say, autistic, who have ADHD, dyslexia, or other conditions and ways of being, they see and experience things differently. So we need like the society, the world, the systems sometimes to adapt to them and not just always them trying to change for society.
Mm. In a simple way, how can you define neurodiversity for someone who doesn't know, like even a kid, 10 years old, she doesn't know she might be neurodivergent, but or even for their parents to understand who they are or how they are wired in their brain. Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's really cool that you say how it's wired, because my favorite quote about neurodiversity is it's an advocate named Dan Silverman, and he says something really brilliant that a lot of people still, they share and continue to say, and that the best way to see neurodiversity is to think of it like a different computer operating system. So just because someone isn't a PC or a Windows, it doesn't mean they're broken. So maybe they're a Mac. So and they operate differently. So basically, trying to bring the truth that all minds, all human beings work and operate differently.
But how many different operating system do we have? Because in the computer system we have Windows, Mac, and maybe some other stuff, but basically we think about this main two. But neurodiversity, it's not like you have two computer system, right? You have
many.
How many different?
You have many. I mean, to be honest, I think as many human beings there are in the world, there's that many unique ways, unique operating systems. And previously, you know, there was the main groups that were calling themselves neurodivergent, was the autistic community, and then it became ADHD community came along too. And then it started to become, through the research, through the scientific research, but not just the scientific research. Neurodiversity is all about also lived experience. So the actual individuals themselves explaining what's happening to them and what they're experiencing. So now it's vast, but it's also complex. So some individuals have both ADHD and autism. Some people are dyslexic and they have ADHD at the same time.
What is ADHD?
ADHD it stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. So it's a neurodivergent condition where people like myself struggle with certain aspects of life, like it can be time management, it can be remembering things, staying organized, these sort of things. For instance, things through your personal experience, what are concrete examples? I mean, not the like getting organized, or can you give us concrete example of how you feel you are maybe ADHD? It depends like where I am, you know. That's the thing about neurodivergent individuals, like the situation they're in, and it can be the workplace, it can be the school. It manifests differently depending on where you are. So if it's an environment that's not designed for you, and it's an environment that's designed for what we call neurotypical individuals. So a neurotypical person is someone who operates perfectly well in society. You know, they're on time to work, they do their washing, they clean, everything, like they're able to adapt, you know, to workplaces and schools and all the systems that are set up. But the neurodivergent individual, especially ADHD, is an individual who doesn't fit into that system. So if we're in an environment that's not designed for us, then there's a lot of triggers, and then ADHD can become a very negative and even like traumatic thing.
Like, what's your best trauma as an ADHD person?
School. Absolutely, school, just education.
But like all your life at school, or maybe, I don't know, 1 year it was more difficult for you because of this teacher, or because you moved from another school?
All my life, and I was a teacher too and a school leader too, and even as a staff member, as an adult, it was really, really difficult. One important thing is there's a lot of overlap between neurodiversity and giftedness. So there's actually a lot of research on this too, that a lot of neurodivergent individuals usually have, you know, a unique purpose, a drive, something that really interests them and that they want to pursue. And that thing can change from time to time, but there's also a very specific way that they want to engage with that thing too. And so the reason why school becomes really, really hard for neurodivergent kids, autistic, ADHD, dyslexia, is that they are expected to fit into a system that's designed blanket for, you know, all the kids. So you have 25 kids, say, in one classroom, following the same curriculum, similar style of learning, and the neurodivergent kids are the ones that are basically going, no, this is not working for me.
So can you give a concrete example of how you can adjust a little bit as a teacher your way of operating, so you have more safe space, or I don't know, for that kind of kids?
I think is firstly just being aware that all the children and all adults too, we can put this example to workplaces, are actually experiencing what's being given to them, what they're trying to learn, and differently. And the best thing that parents, teachers can do is to be open to changing their approach. So, if someone, if a student doesn't want to learn, especially for ADHD individuals, sitting down for 8 hours a day, 5 hours a day, and doing administrative work, like you're constantly having to write and to process in a very still way, this doesn't work for us. Like it's sometimes even painful and traumatic because your spirit wants to rebel against this. Like you don't feel like you can be in this environment anymore. So that can cause all sorts of things later. Like it can become depression, anxiety, trauma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes me think a candidate I placed for one of my top clients. He was afraid to mention that to his management in his previous company, but because he moved to international startup, he felt he could talk about it, and through the recruitment process he mentioned it, and then I mentioned it to the management. So first reaction was, oh, maybe it's not we don't have time to take this kind of people right now. But actually the guy was really good, and so just after interviewing him, it removed their fear. But it's also responsibility for ADHD or neurodivergent people also to dare to talk about, first to know they are, and talk about it. Maybe they don't have anyone in front to receive that or to adjust to them, but first they need to know and they need to talk about it. Otherwise, how as a manager or a teacher can you know they are?
It's really like the paradigm is like really changing, like for workplaces and schools. It's suddenly, especially in the last few years, like in the UK, in the USA, in other countries, it's become very now okay to talk about it.
Well, before it was more shameful.
It was shameful. It was, the stigma was that it was, being disabled is also not a bad thing. Like some people do have disabilities, and some neurodivergent people do have a disability as well. Some don't. But either way, it was, to speak about it in a workplace environment was almost like saying, I'm not capable, or maybe you can't trust me with this project or this task, and you might not even get the job, But now, because the research and the understanding shows that actually neurodivergent people make really, really good employees, and they usually have something very unique to bring to the company. Okay. And it's actually a really wonderful thing for the HR sector that is getting involved with it around the world too, is it's a way of, looking at the person being recruited, not just to fit that role, but also what other innovation, what other idea, what other creative project can come through this person. What do they have to bring?
Why do we say this kind of special population have something special to bring to the workplace? Because they can focus really in detail for a long time, or because they are so passionate they will go 10 times further than another person would do?
Yeah. Like ADHD individuals, like the lived experience definition of that, like a lot of what people are saying themselves, and this is me too, when we are excited and interested in a project or a task, we can focus for hours and weeks. When we're doing what we really care about, and we really feel that we're going somewhere with it, that's when like the genius, the gifted side of things comes out. We can hyper-focus actually, Okay. But it's interesting when there's tasks and projects that we're not interested in, and it's not just about interest. I think a lot of neurodivergent people have a really strong moral compass, and they really want to make a difference in the world. And when we feel that what we're doing isn't making a difference, or it's even maybe causing damage, there's like an internal battle that comes up, and then we get stuck. And then a lot of, they call executive dysfunction, and different blocks and traumas come up, and then you feel you can't function in that system.
I'm thinking about my mom, because she's, I told you she's bipolar, and I'm thinking maybe she's just neurodivergent.
She is, yeah. That neurodiversity, it covers every aspect of psychology and condition. It's very broad, and yeah, bipolar is also in the.
It's part of that.
It's part of the paradigm, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's something I've had in my family too, that, family members have experienced. And it's really, again, I know so many people who do have bipolar that have done really amazing, incredible things in their workplaces, in their lives. But I also know it can, the stigma around it, it's not just the individual that's the problem, it's the way that we see it, If an individual has bipolar, and even things like their schizophrenia
or depression, we don't understand it. It's really, and now we are trying to healing it with a lot of drugs and so on, but the research is changing fast on that, but it's really hard. But also we are at a period of science where we understand more and more brain. Mm-hmm. So I think there will be amazing stuff coming around that topic.
Yes. They say 1 in 6 people is neurodivergent, and that's probably more than that, because the thing about neurodiversity is that there's this thing called masking. So neurodivergent individuals, they quickly learn in life that, to be their authentic, real selves, to show what they're really experiencing, isn't always approved. So what we start to do is what's called masking. So you start to pretend that you are neurotypical and that you are doing okay and everything is fine and you're ticking all the boxes and doing your work and your job. But what happens is masking is actually really tiring for everyone. It's like you have to pretend to be an extra layer of yourself. So that leads to burnout. And again, it can even...
But masking, this technique is...
pretending, faking.
Pretending. Most of the people are doing it, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe I think about this, but I'm thinking about me. When you say that, I'm like, okay, I'm doing that. I mean, I did it several times in my life. A lot of people to fit to the workplace or new school. You need to do that. It's also a kind of a protective survival behavior, right? Mechanism to help you to survive.
Yeah. It is interesting. We could say I don't know what the research is on that, and I can't speak for every human being, but in a way, most of us are, putting on a role for survival. Yeah. It is to make it in the game of life, we have to pretend to be something we're not. And the neurodivergent experience is when people can't do it anymore. and then,
And when you can't do it anymore, what happens?
Is that's when the signs, the symptoms, they come up. And
like what?
I can maybe speak more specifically for ADHD.
Yeah.
With ADHD, it can be really, that's all the negative effects, the forgetfulness, the executive dysfunction. There's something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, where we become really sensitive towards rejection. So someone says no, or your boss says, I need to have a chat with you.
And you're like,
ADHD person is thinking, sitting at their desk going, I'm going to get fired, I've ruined everything, because you've got this whole history through, especially the education system, of always doing things wrong and being reprimanded for it. And there's always that fear of someone's going to give you a consequence. So, and then that's the journey that leads most people to start to unmask, as they say, and to start to discover their neurodivergence.
You told me also about neurodiversity when we talk about this, about ancient wisdom. Linked to kind of to see that as a gift. You started mentioning that. Mm-hmm. Can you come back to that and elaborate on different ways, culture to approach neurodiversity, especially from ancient wisdom perspective?
This is something that I'm personally really passionate about and interested in. And I hope more people speak about it too. Because our modern understanding of neurodiversity, it was developed by, Western psychology and Western academia. And and medicine. So the diagnostic labels, like there's ADHD, bipolar disorder, autism spectrum disorder, Down syndrome, they came from a view, and I should say a colonial sort of worldview, that was let's diagnose, let's put people into boxes, and let's figure out, what's wrong always, and it's evident that neurodivergent people existed like throughout history, it is in history. We didn't have those names for it. We didn't have the name autism, we didn't have ADHD, but they've been in society, we've been here all along, and for me, I'm really excited about individuals, as they're going into their journey of self-discovery and healing, is to reconnect to their own past, their own heritage, their own culture, and especially like spiritual wisdom that I believe can help them actually see themselves differently.
Like what? Spiritual wisdom, what do you mean?
For me, like, I'm both Muslim and I'm really into studying Buddhism as well. And from that aspect, in the past, for example, there was always the idea of those individuals who had a lot of different interests, so they would be artists, they would be healers, they would also be creatives and entrepreneurs and inventors. And history is full of these kinds of people, in every society. So what I see is, when you look in the past, there was this understanding that, people could be many things at once. And there was also people who were, more maybe introverted and more interested in, the deeper patterns of the universe and how things operate. And they preferred solitude, and to be on their own. There was always a place for those individuals. But unfortunately in our society now, especially in the education system, there isn't, Again, all the kids have to go into the same class, 25 kids, and they're all expected to behave and adapt to the curriculum, to the structure. Yeah. But some are just different. And so as a society, we have to go, okay, can we allow the different ones to follow their true north, like their heart, and follow what they're supposed to do, rather than just box, and systemize. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But actually, I think that question, discussion is for neurodivergent, but for any human being, because following your heart, being aligned, find your place in the world, this is for anyone also.
It is.
But it's more maybe complex, and they have more, challenge than typical. Mm-hmm. But I think it's kind of apply to anyone.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing about all of this.
Yeah. No problem. Thank you for having me.
I like to share about the usage of LinkedIn, and in your expertise in industry on neurodiversity, something you told me is useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell us about.
LinkedIn's become like a really hotbed for the neurodiversity movement right now. And I really hope that movement, grows in Cambodia and different countries as well. But there's just so many wonderful, organizations and schools and workplaces and movements and NGOs that are really pushing the message and the advocacy on LinkedIn. And I think it's so important because LinkedIn's so related to our workplace culture. Yeah. And whoever works, like we spend most of our lives in our workplace, and a huge problem that the neurodivergent community has is the systems in workplaces that don't work for them. So the movement is like really happening there, and there's a lot of change and voices being heard. I hope this podcast adds to that, and it also brings like a connection between the Cambodian community and the international community that are working.
You have Cambodian active organization or professional talking about neurodiversity already?
It is coming along. There's a strong special educational needs sector, and I'm also part of a group called Senya Cambodia, which advocates for awareness and change across the international school sector. And a big part of what I want to do is also to help bring the neurodiversity affirmative paradigm. So it's a shift, it's a change from the way it was done before to this sector, and it's also happening. Like it's a wonderful community. We have events and expos too, and the discussions, the change, that shift is also starting here, which is really cool.
Makes me think. What's your next step for your project?
My next step is I am now launching my online community where people can join on a platform called School for $49 a month. They join and become a part of the co-op. It's called the Neurodiversity Cooperative. And I called it that because I want it to be something that a community builds together. But in this, as part of being in this co-op, we have regular Zoom calls and meetings and training sessions where I am really excited about AI too, and how we can use it to really simplify the latest research and understanding on all of this, and to bring it to the world, and through translating it to Khmer and different languages too. So I really want everyone to be equipped with like the latest research, and also the way to bring healing and to bring more of that, spiritual, heart-led understanding about psychology, and bringing workshops and training in that community. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I also offer training and workshops to workplaces, schools, organizations. So where I come in, and
companies also, private sector,
private sector too. Yeah, really important. And where I do training sessions, helping them to understand neurodiversity and how they can make their workplace a place that's where every single individual can be themselves, and also the benefit that brings that, not just to that person, but to the whole workplace.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe to jump on that, do you have a thing to share with the internet, a call to action to people who will watch this video?
Yeah, sure. I would just say that I really, this topic is actually, it's taken me a long time to come to a place where I can talk about it, and it's actually something that's really causes a lot of distress, trauma, and pain for many individuals, and so I know that being neurodivergent isn't easy, and being a family member sometimes of a neurodivergent individual too has its challenges. And I know there can be a lot of difficulty around that, but I also know that if we have community and we have safe spaces and workplaces where we can talk about this, and we can actually figure out the solutions and to make the world a more welcoming place. So my call to action is really, I would be so looking forward to meeting or connecting with anyone who wants to, who feels that this will benefit them and that we can make it better together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Sinan.
Thank you, Antoine. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So if you are interested in what Sinan is doing, just check his LinkedIn, or we can find your website, Neurodiversity Co-op.
The website is neurocoop.org. Neurocoop.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll put that link in the YouTube, and maybe also other link that you share with us, like how to test if you are neurodivergent, or maybe one or two key speakers to learn more about this topic, or I don't know, simplified research paper about it.
Definitely.
Draft or your best article, something for people to continue on their journey to discover about this topic.
For sure.
And last question, what's your favorite place in Cambodia?
My favorite place in Cambodia is a village called Kampong Kliang. I have family there. My partner's family is from this village. It's a floating village in Siem Reap. It's just really, really incredible, beautiful place. I think it should be called a floating city because it's so big. And
How big?
I'm not sure about the numbers, but it's big. Like, it's not like a village is, in a 10, 15 minutes you've seen a village, but Kampong Kliang is huge. It's very vast, and the lifestyle that people have there, in the way they've kept this way of life of living on water, with the lake and with nature, and the technology around that I think goes back all the way to the Angkor period, is like incredible. And every time I go there, I think, there's so much wisdom there, so much understanding, such a different way of life that's really like valuable. So yeah, that's my favorite place, Kampong Kliang. And in Phnom Penh, my favorite place is, I like where I live. We live actually nearby to each other, so it's,
Beautiful street.
beautiful Chak Tomuk area near the Royal Palace. That's again, I like being next to the water and to the river and the lake. So
The fresh air in the morning.
the fresh air, people dancing in the mornings
Yeah.
and walking their
In the
dogs.
park.
Yeah, in the park. Yeah, and
They are really funny.
yeah, that's definitely one thing that makes me joyful about living in Cambodia. It's just the people. It's the way of life when you wake up in the morning and Phnom Penh is alive, and families are having breakfast and kids are going to school, and you have people from all walks of life. I just find Phnom Penh to be so exciting, especially in the mornings. That always makes me really happy. I just feel like everyone's up to something, and yeah, it's hard to explain. I think it's the vibe, it's the energy of Phnom Penh. It's a happening place.
But these guys dancing in the park,
Yeah,
for me, they are the kind of representative of that energy in the morning. Can't find that.
There's huge groups around the world that do they have sober dance parties and raves now, where people are completely sober. They meet in the morning and they have a huge a party to wake themselves up and have a good day. I keep thinking, I think that was invented in Cambodia, because it's every morning if you wake up and you go to
Hey, start dancing.
yeah, there's
Good way
people
to start.
dancing and they're sober. They're not. It's not a drinking party. It's like a wake up and enjoy the day party.
Maybe you should join, or maybe you should launch one.
I think we should.
see.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Anton.
Check his LinkedIn.
Please do.